Welcome to this first edition of Talking All. It's a podcast series where we spend just 15 minutes, a snapshot, talking to an all person in our community about things of interest to the academic skills advising community. And for our very first edition of Talking All, we have a relatively new all president, Andrew Kelly from Edith Cowan University in WA. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. It's really good to have you for our first edition of this podcast. It's an exciting little venture we're running here. Okay, so Andrew, tell us your first 5 months as all president. How's it going?
Look, it's going great. It's been a really enjoyable challenge so far. I think the opportunities to collaborate with colleagues around Australia has been particularly enjoyable for me. I'd shout out specifically Debbie Howarth at Torrens and Lisa Americanos at the University of Tasmania. We've been working collaboratively on the way in which we govern all and some of our operations as part of the new executive. So that in itself has been a really enjoyable and rewarding experience for me. And with the new exec that we've brought on for the next 2 years, we've been working a lot more in that space in terms of how we can improve the way we do things and how we can give back more to members as well. So things like improving communication so members know what's happening and what we're planning, opportunities for more professional development and other ways that people can participate through leadership roles and other working groups and things like that. I think one of the challenges with roles like this is it is a volunteer role, and I'm conscious that everyone on the executive contributes their time, and I very much appreciate that, and that in itself can be a challenge. So the wheels of the association, so to speak, can move slowly at times, but I'm really glad to see some early progress, and everyone's input so far has been really, really valuable. So looking forward to continuing that collaboration with those on the exec and other members as we proceed through this year and into next year as well.
Excellent. So thinking ahead, looking ahead to that sort of 2-year time span you talked about, and it's hard, of course, to extrapolate too far ahead, but what are some of the things, even just one or two things you hope to achieve in the role, or things you'd like to see happen? I mean, you've alluded to a couple of things: expanded PD and increased communications and offerings to members. Anything that you've got your heart set on in terms of things you'd like to see happen?
Yeah, look, I think by the time I step away from the president's role at the end of next year, you've already touched upon a couple there. So more PD opportunities. I think our Connect, Inspire, Share sessions are a reason to celebrate, and opportunities to expand that I think we should definitely look at. We've spoken about investigating some kind of mentorship program for different people in the all community. So I think there's something there that we could look at that would provide a lot of value, particularly for new members wanting to be mentored or mentor someone else. I think that could be something we could do. Improving communications is one I mentioned. We're already planning to release a new version of an all newsletter, hopefully by mid-year this year, and release that on a semi-regular basis so people can stay up to date in what's happening and how they can contribute and be involved. So I think that that's something to look out for. Increasing opportunities for people to get involved into leadership roles either as a deputy lead, part of a conference committee or a working group. We're looking at ways in which we can expand those opportunities for members as well. So they're the first things that come to mind. I think thinking more broadly though as well, there's so much that all can contribute into what's happening in the sector right now, and we are working in a very dynamic space. So some of the ways in which the executive can give back to its members and can contribute to what's happening in the sector might reveal itself over the next 12 months in different ways. So the implications for the university's Accord, for example, the support for students policy, the emerging role that generative AI is going to shape how we work and how students learn at university, I think will play a role in it in many different ways. So I'm hoping through those different mechanisms and ways in which all can lead, we can contribute in a range of different ways, not just for members, but also for people beyond the all community, and see its value and see how we play an important role in supporting students, especially at university.
Mm. Yeah, gee, you talked about a lot there, and it's great to see some of those things already happening in the time you've been in charge of all, and great to hear about the dynamic ideas you have for the group. You know, the us as a group going forward. And you know, it is a fluctuating space, isn't it? Because you talk about AI and the Accord and the challenges we face. So just on those challenges for a moment and stepping maybe away from the role and looking, taking that broader view, what do you see as, and AI might be a classic one, we talk a lot about that, but what are some of the challenges for the industry as you see them over maybe just even the coming 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think, as you've alluded to, I think generative AI and how those programs develop over the next 12 months will be a massive challenge. But there's also certainly opportunities for thinking about how we leverage those tools to support student learning and how students can get the most out of those tools in appropriate and ethical ways. So there's both challenges and opportunities in that space. And I think with that, where I see the role of language and learning advisors developing over time is that we will probably gradually move away from the focus of our work being tailored towards the mechanics of writing and the genres of academic writing, but more towards skill development in a broader sense. So how students work in teams, how they think critically and evaluate AI outputs, for example, how they give feedback and how they engage with feedback and how they apply it. I think they're the types of skills that we could add a lot of value to students moving forward. I think in addition to that, it's always played an important role, but there's an increasingly important role for all educators to support students with diverse needs and backgrounds. And like with everything else that we've discussed so far, there's both challenges and opportunities in that space. So I think strategically, the association should think about ways in which it can provide more training and professional development opportunities to respond to this diversity in our work with students. So students that have different forms of neurodiversity, for example, inclusive practices in the classroom and in our resources and making them accessible. All those types of things play an important role. And I think there's a challenge with that because it takes more time to think through to make sure everything that we do is inclusive and accessible. But there's an opportunity there, of course, to reach more students and support more students that really need it. So there's things to be excited about by focusing more in that area.
Oh, I completely agree, and it's certainly a focus of the institution I'm at. And I only say that because I think it's reflecting what you've just said and a trend in other places to be more to really focus on inclusion and to sort of give a greater space to the discussion around neurodiversity and how we as educators broadly and as advisors more specifically work in that space. And I think it's fantastic because it's really educative for people perhaps like myself who haven't been as aware in that space in the past and are becoming more so. I think it's really good. Okay, Andrew. So my final thing I'd like you to think about, and again, you can take this however way you want to take it in terms of academic skills centres like yours at Edith Cowan or where I am at UniMelb. What challenges are centres facing, and if you would rather focus on what positives there are, what's there to celebrate? I mean, you can take it either way. So you've probably raised a few of the challenges already, but what also is there for us to celebrate moving forward?
Look, I think across all of the academic skills and similar sorts of centres across Australia, there's much to celebrate. Collectively, we support thousands of students, thousands every year to achieve their educational dreams and goals. So I think it's always worth pausing to reflect on that combined contribution to academic success for students around Australia. I think that's really important. And I think with the challenges that we've spoken about briefly earlier, there's also obviously great opportunities. Universities right now are really focusing on equity. They're focusing on increasing regional student participation, improved outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, ensuring learning is still happening and learning is being assured in a Gen AI world. So perhaps more than ever before, we've got a new scope to promote the importance of what we do for students and the difference that we can make. So I think there's plenty of opportunities while these are really hot topics in the sector. And all as an association can assist with that, I think. We can play a role in benchmarking, in sharing practice, facilitating further research through grants and things like that, to further showcase and highlight the important work that we do with students across all institutions in Australia. So lots to celebrate, and there's lots of opportunities to respond to some of the challenges that we're collectively facing right now.
Agreed. I think there are a lot of opportunities. All right. Thanks very much, Andrew. It's been an enlightening 15 minutes, nice snapshot, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.